The Leominster City Council meeting is funded in part by DeCarolis Insurance Agency at www.decarolisinsuranceagency.com and by Avidia Bank at www.avidiabank.com.
Dave Cormier, the Chairman of Finance, and with me is Pauline Cormier, the Clerk of Finance, and Peter Angelini, the third member. So we have a public hearing regarding C-71 Dean J. Mazzarella Mayor requests that the fiscal year 2025 budget, which totals $168,407,963 be adopted. $167,816,463 to be raised by fiscal year 2025 revenues, $276,500 to be transferred from the Gallagher Building Special Revenue Fund, $65,000 to be transferred from the Cemetery Trust Fund, and $250,000 from overlay. Regarding the attached fiscal year 2025 budget document. So we did have a finance subcommittee meeting on May 15th and 16th. We held two separate meetings. We interviewed some department heads, and I think most of them, despite the fact that they were asked to tighten up their budgets on the expense side a little bit by 4%. We're expecting, that to be the future, that we gotta tighten up some things. And most of them, all of them, were very comfortable with the fact that they felt they could live with the budget that is before us. I know that the police had some, concerns about some training they wanted to do, but I'm confident that, the city is in a very good fiscal position. We have plenty of reserves. That's what they're there for, so that if it does begin to rain and there is a financial downturn, we'll be able to weather the storm. I don't have any other questions or comments for anybody at this time, but Councillor Cormier, is there anything you'd like to ask? I know that the superintendent of schools is here, and she might, when we go to the public, might want to come forward with Melanie Michaels and say a few things. The comptroller's here as well, and Wendy Weeks. So I don't know if you have any questions or concerns or want to offer any comment.
Just a couple of comments. I want to thank the department heads who are here tonight, who came to the subcommittee hearings. I think we got a really good explanation of where any cuts or any drawbacks were going to be in the departments. I think all the departments were very cooperative, put together, and thank you for the school budget. It was very thorough. Again, it covered everything that we needed it to cover. Very thorough. I think you're going to leave us in a really good position for next year. So thank you. And I have nothing else. I think it's a reasonable budget, and I would be ready to approve it this evening.
Okay. Councillor Angelini.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll more or less echo Councillor Cormier's remarks. I was very happy with the information and the answers that we received from department heads. I think they were all thoroughly prepared and sort of anticipated a couple of questions that the council has raised. So therefore, having said that, I'm quite comfortable with the process to date. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Any other members of the council have any questions or comments before I go to the public? Councilor Bedanza.
Yeah, I just want to say that, when the school department can come to us with a net school spending budget and be content with that, it sure makes this process a whole lot easier. And I want to thank the school department in particular for all the hard work they've done over the last couple of years. That's put us in this position. And of course, our financial team, and Wendy Weeks for all the work they do for us every day to keep us in a good financial position. And other than that, I have nothing else to add.
Other members of the council have any other questions or comments for anybody that's here or about C-71? Seeing none, I will Councilor Frida, in case she has any anything before I go to the public. Councilor Frida, do you have any questions or comments on C-71 before I go to the public?
Aye.
Councilor Frida? Councilor Frida, do you have any questions or comments on the budget C-71 before I go to the public?
Did I take it?
Yes.
Do we have any minutes from the subcommittee meeting?
I believe those were given to the clerk.
Those were given to the clerk. I haven't seen them yet. I haven't seen the minutes yet.
And I just looked at a draft because it wasn't televised either, and I wasn't able to make it.
I don't have them with me. They are all at the clerk's. They were all submitted to the clerk's office. So we're just waiting on minutes for that.
All right. Is there anything else? All right. I'm going to go to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak in favor or against C-71, or if anybody has any just general comment, maybe not for or against? For the second time, does anybody from the public have any comment or would like to speak in favor or against C-71? And for the third time, would anybody from the public like to speak in favor or against C-71? Seeing none, if there's no other comments from City Council, I'd like to declare the public hearing on C-71 closed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 9 minutes till we can take up C-72.
Okay, we have a 6:15 public hearing before the Finance Committee. I'm Dave Cormier, the Chairman of Finance, and with me this evening is Pauline Cormier, the Clerk, and third member, Peter Angelini. This is regarding C-72 Dean J. Mazzarella Mayor requests that the total appropriation of $6,701,672 be made to the fiscal year 2025 sewer department budget. The same amount to be raised / offset by fiscal year 2025 receipts as authorized by Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E. We did have a subcommittee on May 16th regarding this portion of the budget. And it was presented to us that they are comfortable with this amount to operate for fiscal year 2025. We are in the process of having a rate structure change right now so that our revenues will reflect and we will have proper revenues to operate. So I have no other questions or comments, but I'll ask Councilor Cormier if you have any for anyone that is present. Councilor Angelini.
I'd just like to say, I think that Mr. Racine and Mr. Fleming did an outstanding job during our hearings and answered a lot of questions. Obviously, I think the proactive approach that they've taken has helped keep our rates extremely attractive compared to what neighboring communities. That's all I have to add, Council. Thank you.
Very much. Any members of the City Council have any questions, comments regarding C-72? Seeing none, I will go to members of the public. Would anybody like to speak on C-72 in favor or against? Please come to the microphone. Once again, would anybody like to speak in favor or against C-72? And for the third and final time, would anybody like to speak in favor or against C-72? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing on C-72 closed.
Set your alarm again.
Okay, the time is now 6:30 p.m. We have a public hearing before the Finance Committee. Once again, I am Dave Cormier, the Chairman of Finance. With me is Pauline Cormier, the Clerk, and Peter Angelini, the third member. This is C-73. Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that a total appropriation of $6,538,698 be made to the fiscal year 2025 Water Department budget. The same amount to be raised / offset by fiscal year 2025 receipts as authorized by Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 52E. Once again, we had a subcommittee meeting with the Finance Committee and the department heads on May 16th regarding this item on the budget. We are once again adjusting our rates so that we can make sure that we are raising the proper revenue to support all of our needs for this coming fiscal year. I am certainly comfortable with what was presented by Mr. Racine and Mr. Fleming. And I will ask Councilor Cormier, do you have any questions or comments on C-73?
The only comment I have is when we had our subcommittee hearing and we asked Mr. Fleming regarding the rates and where we stood as a community. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he said that we are actually in the rate-wise for sewage and water in the bottom 1/3 in the state. So I think they've done pretty well. They've been pretty conservative and they're making do with what we have. So I think that's pretty good to be in the bottom 1/3. I know everybody's going to see a little bit of an increase, but when you compare it to what our neighbors and similar communities are paying, I think we're still doing a great job. So I support this as well.
Councilor Angelini?
I'm in agreement with the words of my colleague, Councilor Cormier. I think Water Department has done an outstanding job. And I know they brought in some new technology at No Town filtration plant. That's a trihalomethane issue under control. And I know they're dealing with the lagoon now and the backwash issues, but I'm sure they'll figure that out. But all in all, once again, I think their approach has been sound, and these increases are modest compared to the amount of inflation that the rest of the public and business world is experiencing currently. So thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chairman.
Very much. Any other member of the City Council have any questions or comments on C-73? Seeing none, I will go to the public. Would anybody in the public like to speak in favor or against C-73? If so, please come to the microphone. State your name and address for the record. Once again, would any member of the public like to speak in favor or against C-73? And for the third and final time, would any member of the public like to speak in favor or against C-73? Seeing none, I will declare the public hearing closed.
Just waiting. All right, 6:50. Thank you, Mr. President.
Please, Counselor.
Good evening. My name is Peter Angelini, Chairman of Legal Affairs Committee. I'm joined this evening by the other two members of Legal Affairs, Ward 1 Councilor Robert Tossi and Ward 2 Councilor Pauline Cormier. This is a public hearing of the Legal Affairs Committee, and it's petition 46-24. Greg Robichaud, Sergeant, Leominster Police Department, requests to amend Chapter 13 of the revised ordinance entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic. Chapter 13, Section 13-34 of the revised ordinance entitled No Parking on Certain Streets is hereby amended by deleting the following text. Church Street, west side from Merriam Ave south for 600 feet to the intersection of West Street. Chapter 13, Section 13-34, the revised ordinance entitled No Parking on Certain Streets is hereby amended by inserting the following text. Church Street, west side from Merriam Avenue south for 136 feet. Church Street, west side from 248 feet south of Merriam Avenue, ending at the intersection of Church Street and West Street. We're fortunate enough to have Sergeant Robichaud with us this evening. Could you please come up, Sergeant, and get in the hot seat? First of all, I'd like to read into the record. We asked the DPW for a referral on this. I do have one back. It's dated May 22nd, 2024. Dear Mirabelle, the Leominster Department of Public Works has reviewed the petition to amend Chapter 13 entitled No Parking on Certain Streets by deleting the following text. Church Street, west side from Merriam Avenue south for 600 feet to the intersection of West Street, and then inserting Church Street, west side, south of Merriam Avenue for 136 feet. Church Street, west side, starting from 248 feet south of Merriam Ave, ending at the intersection of Church Street and West Street, and offers the following comments. The DPW approves the petition as submitted. Please let us know if you have any questions. Sincerely, Raymond Racine, DPW Director. And I have also, I'll read your letter into the record if you like, Sergeant Robichaud. This one is dated April 24th, 2024. Honorable City Council members, I respectfully request that a revised no parking ordinance be considered for Church Street in the vicinity of 24 Church Street, formerly known as the Gallagher School. This is due to the recent relocation of the Leominster Police Department. Currently, the entire west side of Church Street between Merriam Avenue and West Street is designated by ordinance as no parking. This includes several marked parking spaces adjacent to the sidewalk next to 24 Church Street. Many years ago, the Leominster Police Department posted the signs in front of 24 Church Street as police parking only. The department no longer requires restricted parking in the area, and it would like to be beneficial to convert those spaces into public parking. I also request that the southernmost parking spot remain as designated no parking zone on behalf of the Leominster Fire Department. Due to the size and nature of some of their apparatus, they often require some of that parking space to safely enter and exit the downtown fire station. I support the revisions of the no parking zone on Church Street, as it would add approximately 5 parking spots to the downtown area. I also support keeping the southernmost parking spot as designated no parking zone to assist the Leominster Fire Department in maneuvering their equipment more easily and safely. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. If you have any questions, please contact me. Thank you, Sergeant. Would you like to give us a little overview of, I mean, I think you have already, but.
problem was.
Hi, sorry for the interruption. The microphone is not turned on. You may just need to hold down that center button in there until it turns on to green. It's got a red light, and then if you hit it one more time, it'll turn green.
Okay, is that better?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, would you like me to restart?
Yeah, they didn't get any of it, unfortunately.
Okay. So to reiterate, thank you, honorable members of the city council, for having me here. So the origin of this particular request comes from the fact that the police department moved from their former 29 Church Street location to their current 116 Central Street location. In the process of the move, it freed up a lot of parking that was previously restricted to police only. And we do have a lot of newer officers who were encouraged to enforce a lot of the no parking zones throughout the city. And that being one of them, we don't want any miscommunication. So I took it upon myself to, while the chief asked me, I took it upon myself to get this squared away properly, make sure that that zone was set aside so that no parking is enforced in the area, in the way it was intended, to not congest the traffic, but those set aside designated parking spots could still be used by the public and not be, basically, it looks like a trap the way it's set up. There's marked parking spots in a no parking zone. So we're going to set those aside to see if we can make sure that people will be able to park there legally without any problems, and it'll increase, they say, approximately 5 parking spots for the downtown area. They currently are set aside as no parking.
Thank you very much, Sergeant, for that explanation. As you know, we had a couple of false starts in this petition, so I was relieved to see you enter the building this evening, quite frankly. So thank you for clearing that up for us. Let me go to members of Legal Affairs. Councilor Tossi, do you have any questions for Sergeant Robichaud?
Sounds great to me.
Okay. Councilor Pauline Cormier.
No, thank you, Sergeant, for coming down, and thank you for the map and explaining all the reasons why. It makes sense. Thank you.
Does.
Map is courtesy of the DPW. I believe it was Mr. Roseberry that supplied that. Cleaned up a lot of the questions.
He didn't want to come back again. Are there any other members of the council? Or David Cormier?
Thank you very much. Now that we're creating some more parking there, I have a suggestion, and I don't want to get fully off topic, but it is kind of related to that whole parking situation in that whole Church Street area. I was wondering if you would be able to see the possibility of a lot in back of City Hall and in between City Hall and the Gallagher building. There are some spots along City Hall, there's signs that says 30-minute parking. And then you have a spot, designated spot for the superintendent. And then there's 3 spots that are along Church Street. Would there be any way to have all those spots in there to be designated 30-minute parking? Because there's a lot of people that want to run in and out of City Hall, park there, run in the side door, City Hall, pay a bill, or run into the Gallagher building and use the credit union, which, full disclosure, I'm on the board. There's a lot of people that need to use those buildings for many different reasons for a very quick in and out. And from what I'm understanding, there are people that are parking there all day. And they shouldn't, in my opinion, they shouldn't be. Because there's plenty of other parking to park downtown. So I was just wondering if that's an item you could work on now that we have these other spaces, so that we could make things a little better there with people that want to run in and out can just pull in that lot, go do what they got to do and get out. And then people can park longer term now on Church Street.
Sergeant, unless you have a 5-second response, I'm going to have to start the meeting.
5-second responses, I'll look into it.
There you go.
The longer response later if you want to call and talk.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Sergeant. Counselor, I'm going to open the meeting.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start with a roll call of the councilors present, starting with Councilor David Cormier,
Present.
Councilor Pauline Cormier,
Present.
Councilor Arndinger, Councilor Angelini, Councilor Tossi, Councilor Shalfo Zephyr, Councilor Robbins,
Present.
Councilor Frida. I am present. All 9 councilors are accounted for. Does the chairwoman of records have a report?
I do, Mr. President. I have reviewed the minutes from the April 22nd, 2024 meeting, as well as the changes to the May 13th, 2024 meeting. I find them to be in good order, and unless there's any objections, I'd ask that they be placed on file.
Very well. Any objections? Seeing none, we're going to have to go into recess because we didn't do the public forum nor close out the public hearing. So
I'll
have
make
a
that
motion.
motion.
A second. All those in favor of recess, please recognize usual manner. We are in recess. Councilor Angelini, I'll turn the floor back over to you to finish up your 6:50 p.m. hearing.
Thank you. Councilor Robichaud, you're all set. You gave him the 5-second answer, and if you want. Are there any other members of the council that would like to comment on, have any questions for Councilor Robichaud on petition 4624? Councilor Shalfo Zephyr?
Thank you very much, Sergeant. Will this be noted as 2-hour parking? Did you say that? Or,
As of right now, it's not designated as any time limit on this.
okay, so people could park there all day long?
Yes.
Consistently. Okay,
So if it becomes a problem, we could address that at a later time.
okay. All righty, thank you.
Is there anyone else in the council that would like to speak on 46-24? All right, let me see if there's anyone in the public that is interested in commenting on petition 46-24. Is there anyone in attendance this evening that would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to petition 46-24? Second time, is there anyone in attendance this evening that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition to petition 46-24? And for the third and final time, is there anyone in attendance this evening that would like to speak on behalf of, in favor of, or in opposition to petition 46-24? Seeing none, Mr. President, I will declare this public hearing closed.
Very well. Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Sergeant. We're now going to conduct the public forum. The public forum is an opportunity for any member of the audience to speak on a matter specifically listed on the council agenda. Speakers will be asked to come to the microphone and state their formal name and address, along with identifying the specific item or items they wish to address. Each speaker is respectfully asked to keep their comments within a 2-minute time frame. The council will not be responding or answering any questions. However, at the discretion of the council president, clarification may be given. No one has formally signed up this evening, but does any member of the public wish to address the council on a matter on this evening's agenda? And for a second time, is there any member of the public that wishes to address the city council? And for a final time, is there any member of the audience that wishes to address the council? Seeing none, I'll declare the public forum closed, and we'll go into communications from the mayor. Starting with C76, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that the appropriation of $300,000 be made to the school transportation expense account, same amount to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. This matter is referred to the Chairman of Finance.
First time on the calendar, Mr. President, regular court.
Very well. C76 has been given regular course. C77, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requested an appropriation of $17,987.95 be made to the snow and ice overtime account, the same amount to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. Once again, this is referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Calendar, Mr. President, regular course.
C77 has been given regular course. C78, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests an appropriation of $75,000 be made to the fire department public safety overtime account, the same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. This matter is referred to the chairman of finance.
Regular course.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regular course. C-79, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requesting an appropriation of $43,000 be made to the fire department operating expense account, the same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. Again, this is referred to the chairman of finance.
Yeah, Mr. President, first time on the calendar, regular course.
Very well. C-79 has been given regular course. C-80, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that the appropriation of $100,000 be made to the snow and ice expense account, the same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. This matter is referred to the chairman of finance.
Regular course.
C-80 has been given regular course. C-81, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requested an appropriation of $4 million be made to the police station capital project fund. Same amount is to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. Matter is referred to the chairman of finance.
First time on the calendar, Mr. President, regular course.
Very well. C-81 is given regular course. Moving on to appointments. C-82, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests the appointments of the following: Cemetery Commission, term to expire April 14th, 2025. Daniel Bartlett, 45 Peachtree Lane, Leominster. Cemetery Commission, terms to expire April 15th, 2026. David Bartlett, P.O. Box 92, Lancaster. Gary Rano, 11 Tina Street, Leominster. Cemetery Commission, terms to expire April 15th, 2027. David Cormier, 9 Deer Run, Leominster. Steve Picard, 305 West Street, Leominster. These appointments are referred to the chairwoman of Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regular course.
Very well. C-82 has been given regular course. Council Frida.
Before the next meeting, can we get a list of who applied for these and how it was advertised for this commission? This is fairly new, so let's see how it was promoted.
Okay, all set, Councilor. Council Shalfo Zephyr.
Thank you very much. Through the chair to the Ways and Means chairperson, are you having any of these folks down for an interview?
No,
If
I
they're
think
new?
all these people are known to they're known to, I think, every member of the council, the committee. I don't see the need to interview the individuals.
Well, I know most of them, but I don't know all of them. And I don't know about the public. I mean, part of the interview process is for, the public who watch our meetings to be introduced, to the people who are sitting on these commissions. So I would ask that the normal routine, which is inviting new people to come down for an interview, be adhered to.
I will make the inquiries with the mayor's office and see how these people came up and how the referrals came up. And I'll make a decision on it based on that, of whether or not to have the interviews. I just don't see every person on here is a person who's been involved in it. We have an individual who was originally on the cemetery committee. We have people that have been on the commission in the past.
Respectfully, through the chair again to the Ways and Means chairperson, you might know that. I don't. And I would imagine that there are people in the public, who would be interested in knowing who's serving on the various.
I will
boards
ask
and
the
commissions.
assistant clerk to send out an invitation to
Thank
any of the individuals who, and I'll make it up to them if they want to come to the next meeting, perhaps, and we can schedule the interviews at that point.
Thank you.
Okay, set. All right, moving on to, we have no petitions, first time on the agenda. Moving on to matters before the city council, starting with the financial report.
Okay, once free cash was certified, we had $14,469,131 that came to us in free cash. To date, we have spent, or we will spend, provided we pass all the appropriations that are before us, we will have ended up spending $12,503,741.25, and that will still leave us with a free cash balance of $1,965,389.75. And the city stabilization account, we began the fiscal year on July 1, 2023 with $21,785,513.54. We have earned in interest $477,230.38. We repaid all the money that we borrowed from this account, which was $4,842,830.38. That has all been repaid. So that leaves us with a balance of $22,262,743.92. And that is the financial report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Moving on to C71. Is the chairman ready to report?
B-71 Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that the fiscal year 2025 budget, which totals $168,007,963, be adopted. $167,816,463 to be raised by fiscal year 2025 revenues. $276,500 to be transferred from the Gallagher Building Special Revenue Fund, $65,000 to be transferred from the Cemetery Trust Fund, and $250,000 from overlay regarding the attached fiscal year 2025 budget document. Mr. President, as I had mentioned during the public hearing, we had budget meetings with the Finance Committee and department heads on May 15th and 16th. We had some pretty healthy discussion regarding this year's budget. I know that I was starting to raise an eyebrow when I started to hear that, you know, department heads were asked to cut things by 4%. As it turns out, it was on the expense side. There are no people that are being cut, which is good. But I know that the mayor wants to, and the financial team want to start, you know, doing some things that are prudent to just making sure that we, you know, are running a tight ship in case any tough financial times are coming. We all know and hear the horror stories about other communities. Fortunately, the city of Leominster, I think, is very well positioned, you know, to go into next fiscal year and beyond. Certainly, if we're not, then I can't imagine what other communities are going to deal with down the road. So, you know, with that being said, a lot of the department heads are very comfortable with their budget. And, you know, one of the effects of the budget with some reductions, as we've seen, is possibly when we certify free cash for fiscal year 2025. So 2 years from now, we might have a little bit less free cash, things of that nature. But that is something that we know about. I'm sure the financial team is planning for, and are going to do things that are, you know, prudent and that reflect that. So this was a different, certainly a different budget in all, you know, all my time here. That, you know, department heads were asked to, you know, make some modest cuts, and you know, I think it was mentioned that we have to balance the budget slightly with some excess levy capacity, just a couple $100,000, which I believe, talking to the comptroller, and if anybody has any questions about that, she can explain, is dwindled. I guess some financial numbers came in after this budget was put together that are more favorable for us, not less. So all in all, I think it's you know, probably might not be the best budget I've ever seen. I mean, you know, it's a little bit tighter than normal. I wish we had more money like everybody else, but understanding what my role is in the budget, I can't add to it. And certainly we don't have a mayor that is just throwing money at everyone, and we need to sit here and say, hey, that this is enough. We gotta cut back. The taxpayers can't afford this. I mean, this is a bare bones budget. So with that being said, there isn't much I can do with it and except cut it. And I think it's already been submitted to us, pretty bare bones. So with that being said, Mr. President, it would be my recommendation that we grant C-71, and I'll ask you that you check with members of my committee.
Thank you, Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Agree.
Councilor Angelini. You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-71. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Frida.
I apologize. I did have a couple questions earlier, but I didn't pull them out until I sat down. I'm sure there's a good explanation. Just noticing that we just took in six new police officers. And that was after the budget was submitted. Are those salaries included in that budget, or how are we going to handle that?
I believe those are included in the budget, and I see by a nod of the head that they are.
Okay, all right. I kind of figured that was the situation, but I just wanted to be sure. And I'm sure it's probably somewhere, and I must have missed it. Is there an anticipated tax increase? Do you have an idea? Do we have an idea how much if all things stay equal? I know we got to wait till November, for the assessed values, but if everything kind of stays the same, do you want me to ask for a recess?
At this point, I think we would need to, because, this didn't happen during the hearings. So we're going to have a hearing now, it looks like.
I'll move that we go into recess.
I'll second that.
All in favor of going into recess, please recognize usual manner. Okay, we are in recess. Go ahead, Councilor Frida.
Yes, so it's very hard to determine what it's going to be, because when we set the budget, there's still 2 other rounds that has to go through the state to determine what funding we will get. Our first round was one amount, it went down, it's gone back up slightly. So, hopefully everybody, call your people and say we need more money. And hopefully it comes in even higher still. Every dollar that we get from the state will reduce the amount that we have to collect in taxes. It's a fine line for the taxes because we can't predict what the new growth is going to be. Several years ago, we predicted too low, and taxes weren't even raised to the 2.5%. So we have to kind of balance it. This year we did through matter of necessity, we did squeak into the excess levy capacity, but it's already come down. If the new growth, we've budgeted $1 million, it has been over $1 million for the past 3 years. So every dollar that it's over, it comes down. But it's also preventing us from being in a bad situation. So if we don't get to the 2.5% and we keep increasing that excess levy capacity, the financial institutions don't like that. We're looking at a new school. That's going to be a huge bond if we need to go out. So we need to make sure that we keep our good standing and, kind of balance and stay right at the edge of that line.
That was the next thing I was going to bring up, is the excess levy capacity, because I think that's important.
Yeah.
In the 30 years I've been sitting here, we have never touched that. And, it's a credit to the mayor and to the council, for all those years. And I think it's important for people. Everybody's seeing overrides in every community. And I don't know if everybody really understands what that means. There's no more money to tap.
Right.
So they're asking people to approve borrowing more money or taking more money, to do extra things or even just meet expenses.
I was going to say a lot of them are just to meet their operating costs this year.
So it's important. I mean, levy capacity is what, 7 million, around there, I would say.
It's something now at this point. So,
and
it just multiplies, every year you don't collect it, you can't get it back. So, and not, we always want to be fair, but we have to be financially prudent as well.
I just wanted to point out, because it is important that, the mayor could have said, look, we instead of cutting 4%, we're gonna tap into that excess levy capacity, and we don't have to ask the public.
Yeah.
We can just do it.
Yeah.
So, it's important to note that we're not doing that.
Yeah, our budget this year is very tight, and depending how things go, we see the same for, 226. So.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. President, just
That's it for
something,
me.
just something for the comptroller very quickly. In our discussions with the fire chief, the paramedics, I know it had been brought up by Councilor Schaffler-Zephyr about overtime for the paramedics.
Yep.
So the fire chief, going into next fiscal year, we are supposed to fully staffed would be 8. We're going to keep 7.
We did not staff the last position.
Yep. And we're going to hire that position with overtime as
We
well
will.
as any vacations and sick and whatnot are going to all be hired with overtime. So clearly that's the policy going into fiscal year 2025. And I just think that we should be clear that we're going to see appropriations throughout the fiscal year for our overtime expenditures. And it
Yeah.
has nothing to do with any closures at Leominster Hospital or anything of that
No.
nature. As the fire chief indicated, I just want to say that publicly. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, that this is because the financial team and the mayor have determined that this is how they want to run this. They believe it is better for the city in the long run to hire overtime than to have full staffing because less pension money, less all these.
I was gonna say,
OPEB.
unfortunately, it's very expensive to have another full-time employee. There's a whole lot of other costs that go with it rather than just their salary. And when we do it on overtime, we are funding exactly what we need. So we're not, there's no extra there. We're, going with exactly what we need, and we'll come back for the overtime costs if we need to. And that goes for the other budget, as you had mentioned, if there may be, certain instances where we may have to come back down more, throughout the year because of this line item or that line item where, the people had made cuts and, hopefully we don't see a lot of that. All the departments were comfortable with where they were, but things may come up.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Thank you, Ms. Reddington. I guess we can go back into formal session, and C71 is in front of us. Is there any further discussion on C71? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C71, please recognize the usual manner. I can do a roll call if you prefer. Starting with Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Ottinger. Councilor Angelini. Councilor Tossi.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr. Councilor Robbins.
Yay.
Councilor Frida. I'll be recorded as yay. C71 has been granted by a vote of 9-0. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President. Ordered that the sum of $168,407,963 be adopted. $167,816,463 to be raised by the fiscal year 2025 revenues. $276,500 to be transferred from the Gallagher Building Special Reserve Fund, $65,000 to be transferred from the Cemetery Trust Fund, and $250,000 from overlay. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request for the adoption of the order. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the order, please indicate by saying yay. Yay. Anyone opposed? The order is adopted. Moving on to C72, is the chairman ready to report?
C-72, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that a total appropriation of $6,701,672 be made to the fiscal year 2025 sewer department budget, the same amount to be raised / offset by fiscal year 2025 receipts as authorized by Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E. Once again, Mr. President, as I had mentioned during the hearing, we have the revenue streams in place to raise this money so that we can continue to run what I consider a very efficient operation. And it would be my recommendation that we grant C-72, and I ask that you check with members of my committee.
Council Pauline Cormier,
I agree.
Council Angelini. Thank you, councilors. I've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-72. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we can do these without a roll call, but do you want to recall a roll call? Mine differs, but if you want a roll call, I'll do it. All right, Councilor David Cormier,
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier,
Yay.
Councilor Arninger, Councilor Angelini,
Yay.
Councilor Tossi,
Yay.
Councilor Chalfo Zephyr, Councilor Robbins,
Yay.
Councilor Frida. I'll be recorded as yay by a vote of 9-0. C-72 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President. Order of $6,672 be made to the fiscal year 2025 sewer department budget. The same amount to be raised / offset by fiscal year 2025 receipts as authorized by Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request for the adoption of the order. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the order, please indicate by saying yay. Yay. Anyone opposed? By a vote of 9-0, the order has been adopted. Moving on to C-73.
C-73 Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requested a total allocation of $6,530 paid to the fiscal budget. The same amount to be raised / offset by fiscal year 2025 receipts is authorized by Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 52E. Once again, Mr. President, we met with the department heads on May 16th, and we also have before us a petition that's in process for to change our rate structure to be sure that we are going to be generating this revenue so that we can continue to run a good and efficient operation. And once again, it would be my recommendation that we grant C-73. I'll ask that you check with members of my committee.
Councilor Pauline Cormier,
I agree.
Councilor Angelini.
In agreement.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-73. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to do this by roll call, starting with Councilor David Cormier,
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier,
Yay.
Councilor Arninger, Councilor Angelini, Councilor Tossi,
Yay.
Councilor Chalfo Zephyr, Councilor Robbins,
Yay.
Councilor Frida, and I'll be recorded as yay by a vote of 9-0. C-73 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, ordered that the sum of $6,538,698 be made to the fiscal year 2025 Water Department budget. The same amount to be raised / offset by fiscal year 2025 receipts is authorized by Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 52E. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request to adopt the order. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the order, please indicate by saying yay. Yay. Anyone opposed? By a vote of 9-0, the order is adopted. Moving on to C-74. Is the chairman ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President, C-74 Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests an appropriation of $200,000 be made to the stabilization fund. The same amount is to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account, which is in parentheses the undesignated fund balance regarding replenish the funds that were expended out of stabilization account. We repaid most of the money in one large appropriation. However, there was one amount that came out that we do need to repay, and this is it. And this is customary. We always repay the stabilization account once our free cash is certified, and we then have excess and deficiency. So it would be my recommendation, Mr. President, that we grant C-74, and I ask that you check with members of my committee.
Councilor Pauline Cormier,
I agree.
Councilor Angelini. You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-74. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-74, please recognize the usual manner. Anyone opposed? By a vote of 9-0, C-74 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, order that the sum of $250,000 be made to the stabilization fund. The same amount is to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account, the undesignated fund balance regarding to replenish the funds that were expended out of stabilization. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request to adopt the order. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the order, please indicate by saying yay.
Yay.
Yay. Anyone opposed? By a vote of 9-0, the order is adopted. Moving on to C-75, Mr. Chairman.
C-75 Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that an appropriation of $1 million be made to the Police Station Capital Project Fund. The same amount is to be transferred from the Capital Stabilization Fund. This is regarding, this amount is reserved in capital stabilization for this purpose. I did talk to the comptroller about this. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but you'll see that there's, for the next meeting, we have a $4 million appropriation on here, and then we have this one for now. So what this one is doing is we are going to pay a couple of bills that are due for the new police station. This $1 million and spending it in this manner is going to allow us to just pay for it up front and not have to make it part of our the money that we have to borrow. So certainly this type of way of doing this, we're very fortunate that we have this money to do this so that we can save money in the long run. So it would be my recommendation, Mr. President, that we grant C-75, and I'll ask that you check with members of my committee.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
I agree.
Councilor Angelini. You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-75. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-75, please recognize the usual manner. Anyone opposed? By a vote of 9-0, C-75 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, ordered that the sum of $1 million be made to the Police Station Capital Project Fund. The same amount is to be transferred from the from the Capital Stabilization Fund. This amount was reserved in capital stabilization for this purpose. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request to adopt the order. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the order, please indicate by saying yay. Yay. Anyone opposed? By a vote of 9-0, the order has been adopted. Moving on to 47-24. Is the chairman ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President, 47-24, Gregory C. Chapdelaine, purchasing agent, City of Leominster, regarding petition to enter a 5-year contract, which is for Axon, Integrated Police Operations Vendor, a company that provides integrated products and services for police department operations, such as tasers, body cameras, etc., and the software that allows all these devices to integrate together operationally, as well as the tracking of and record keeping concerning the use of such devices. We do have a letter here from Mr. Chapdelaine, also signed by Police Chief Aaron Kennedy, dated May 2nd, 2024, and it reads, "Dear Honorable Members of the Leominster City Council, this petition is to allow the purchasing agent to enter into a 5-year contract with Axon, a company that provides integrated products and services for police department operations, such as tasers, body cameras, etc., and the software that allows all these devices to integrate together operationally, as well as the tracking of record keeping concerning the use of such devices." I'm going to skip some of this jargon. It just talks about the law, about how we're allowed to do this, which is on Chapter 30B, 12B. It goes on to read, the Leominster Police Department is currently under contract with Axon, with this current contract expiring soon. The Leominster Police Department signed up with Axon 2 years ago to test Axon's products and systems and have found it to be suitable for the city's policing operations. Discussions have begun with Axon in preparation for a new contract. The city's current contract is a 3-year introductory deal that is no longer available. All new Axon contracts are a minimum of 5 years. Hence, this request of the City Council to allow a contract to be signed for a period of time longer than the standard 3-year period. So basically, we have extended some of these before. It sounds like this one, we're really not going to have a choice if we want to continue to do business with them. They are requiring it. But also most of these, when we do longer term contracts, we have found that they have saved money for the city. And so I have no reservations at all with Mr. Chapter Lane looking to enter into a longer term agreement. I know he's done this with many different products and services before that the city uses. It has saved us money, and there are actually none that I can think of that have created any problems for us. So it would be my recommendation, Mr. President, that we grant 47-24, and I'll ask it, check with members of my committee.
Councilor Pauline Cormier,
I agree.
Councilor Angelini.
All served by contracts.
Very well. So we have a unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee, or is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting 47-24, please recognize in the usual manner. Anyone opposed? 47-24 has been adopted by a vote, or granted by a vote of 9-0. Moving on to legal affairs, starting with petition 44-24. Is the chairman ready to report?
Petition 44-24, Peter A. Angelini, Ward 5 Councilor, requests to amend the City of Leominster zoning ordinance by inserting the following text under definitions. Short-term rental.
Excuse me. Unfortunately, I think that door has to stay open, yes. Thank you. I appreciate the gesture, however. Sorry, Councilor Angelini.
Short-term rentals, use of a residential unit for residential occupancy by a person or persons for a period fewer than 31 consecutive calendar days for a fee. A short-term rental may or may not be arranged through a booking agent. And also by inserting the following text under the table of uses. Short-term rentals shall be prohibited in Residence A. All other short-term rental zones will be allowed pursuant to state law under the table of uses. Mr. President, we are still waiting for the planning board to issue their recommendation. I believe they're meeting on June 3rd. We do have a continued public hearing scheduled for June 10th at 6:50 p.m. So my recommendation at this time would be further time, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee.
Councilor Tossi
I agree.
and Councilor Pauline Cormier. You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee to grant 44-24 further time. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting 44-24 further time, please recognize the usual manner. Anyone opposed? That's by a vote of 8-1. Further time has been granted. On to 46-24. Is the chairman ready to report?
I am indeed. Thank you, Mr. President. 4624 is Greg Robichaud, Sergeant, Leominster Police Department. Request to amend Chapter 13 of the revised ordinance entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic. Chapter 13, Section 13-34, the revised ordinance entitled No Parking on Certain Streets is hereby amended by deleting the following text. Church Street, West Side from Miriam Ave South for 600 feet to the intersection of West Street. Chapter 13, Section 13-34, the revised ordinance entitled No Parking on Certain Streets is hereby amended by inserting the following text. Church Street, West Side from Miriam Ave South for 136 feet. Church Street, West Side from 248 feet south of Miriam Avenue, ending at the intersection of Church Street and West Street. Mr. President, as you are aware, we held a public hearing early this evening. Sergeant Robichaud was kind enough to attend and gave a little overview of the petition and how we got here and the purpose. This is going to free up some parking spaces and end a situation that Sergeant Robichaud described as a trap, where people felt like they were being lulled into parking where they shouldn't be. We have a positive referral from the DPW, so it would be my recommendation that we grant 4624, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee.
Councilor Tossi
I agree.
and Councilor Pauline Cormier.
I agree.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee to grant 46-24. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting 46-24, please recognize the usual manner. Anyone opposed? By a vote of by a vote of 9-0, 46-24 has been granted. Moving on to 45-24.
Thank you, Mr. President. 45-24. Planning Commission, Glenn Eaton, Executive Director, requested the following petition to amend the Leominster zoning ordinance and zoning map to create an MBT multifamily overlay district and request that you place it on the city council agenda, including with this letter, our proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance and a map depicting the location of the proposed overlay district. As previously agreed, the city of Leominster will be responsible for the public notifications required for this zoning amendment. The MRPC began working with Leominster's Housing Committee in November of 2023 to design a district that would meet the requirements of Section 3A, Chapter 40A, while protecting and promoting the city's sound development. After investigating multiple areas throughout Leominster and considering various configurations, the committee and the staff of the MRPC agreed that this proposal will meet the requirements of the law in a manner best suited to the unique conditions of the North Leominster neighborhood. Mr. President, the Legal Affairs Committee held a subcommittee public hearing Monday, May 20th at the Leominster Public Library, well attended by abutters. We had I thought, a very productive session. We had asked the MRPC to go back and answer some questions that we had. They are working on that. Mr. Boyle informed me that they are truly out straight. They're working for a number of other committees that are striving to become compliant in this this dense housing district. So it would be my recommendation at this time to give this further time. And I guess the only question will be to when. I'm not sure we'll be ready on June 10th. I'm sort of leaning towards June 24th. But I suspect we'll be holding a legal affairs subcommittee meeting prior to June 24th. That's
Okay.
my intention.
Okay, so you're asking for further time this evening? And I will check with Councilor Tossi
I agree.
and Councilor Pauline Cormier. CMS recommendation of legal affairs is to give 45-24 further time. Is there any discussion? Councilor Frida.
Couldn't see who was speaking because the camera didn't move. So I like the names of the people that spoke. I think it's pretty, I know there were some, we know who some of the angry people are, but I know there are a lot of them. So I like to see who they are and what their comments were. Hope we could get that before the next meeting as well.
I'll make sure that gets done.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Cormier. Anything else? Okay, all those in favor of further time, please indicate in the usual manner. When opposed, by a vote of 9-0, 45-24 has been given further time. Moving on to old business. This is Chairman of Legal Affairs correctly pointed out that this is denominated as a second reading. It's actually a first reading of an ordinance. But nonetheless, Mr. Chairman, if you don't object, I don't think you need to read all of these into the record. They've been read multiple times already. Maybe we just want to reference to the public. They're available in the clerk's office.
Yeah, this is formally petition C69, and it is a rate schedule for sewer. Gives, all the different rates for size of pipe. And again, this schedule is available at the city clerk's office. For the purposes of the first reading of the ordinance, in the year 2024, an ordinance amending Article 21 of the revised ordinances entitled Water and Sewer, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Leominster as follows. Chapter 21, Article 2, Sections 21-11.1 of the revised ordinance entitled Water User Rate Schedule, by deleting the provision for metered rates within and outside the city and inserting the following rates in its place. The water user rate schedule for residential and industrial use shall be as follows. And then again, effective July 1st, 2024, and then it goes on and describes the rate increases. It would be my recommendation that we adopt the first reading of the ordinance, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee.
Councilor Tossi,
I agree.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
I agree.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of Legal Affairs Committee to adopt the first reading of the ordinance. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to do this by roll call, starting with Councilor David Cormier,
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier,
Yay.
Councilor Iringer, Councilor Angelini, Councilor Tossi,
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr,
Yay.
Councilor Robbins,
Yay.
Councilor Frida,
Yay.
and I'll be recorded as yay. The first reading of the ordinance has been adopted. Is there anything under the community calendar? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Councilor Shalfo Zephyr. Oh, sorry.
We go back to old.
Yes.
At some point, can we have a discussion about the clerk's office?
Well, we're going to have discussions about the clerk's office, that's for sure. Right now, we're in the process of collecting resumes, which will be handled by the Ways and Means Committee. I don't
I'm
know.
talking about the office itself. I mean, there were a lot of people working in there. It seems like those people are gone. There were 4 or 5 people that were working in there before.
Well, this really isn't on our agenda, and I'm not going to have
How would you like it to be on the agenda to have a discussion? Because we
about,
don't
but
see-
well, send me specifically what you want to discuss. And
we have-
because I'm the one who sets the agenda, and I respectfully, we can't just put anything on an agenda. It has to be something that's specific enough to have a real discussion about. I mean, I'm not going to put on the agenda general discussion of the clerk's office. That's not fair to anybody in the clerk's office or anybody here.
There is a discussion of clarity on.
Well, send me, if you wouldn't mind, please send me what specifically you want to put on the agenda. And I'll address it. What's that? Okay, thank you. Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
There is Ways and Means on here on the agenda. I was expecting an update when I saw it's on tonight's agenda, Ways and Means. You skipped right to old business, but before that was Ways and Means and.
There's nothing under there, Councilor. There's nothing listed.
Why is it on there?
Because the clerk's office has historically, and on every agenda that I've been here for the last 11 years, put every potential category on the agenda as a template. That's all.
I don't ever recall seeing Ways and Means by itself.
Yeah, that happens almost every single agenda.
Normally there'd be something listed underneath it when it's not there. And well, it's the same thing. You see new business is also listed, old business isn't listed, and there's nothing purposely on those. So that's why they just remain blank. Ways and Means does that as well.
Anything else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Councilor David Cormier, seconded by Councilor Pauline Cormier. All in favor, please indicate in the usual manner. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
The Leominster City Council meeting is funded in part by DeCarolis Insurance Agency at www.decarolisinsuranceagency.com and by Avidia Bank at www.avidiabank.com.